My dear Theo, I'm sending you a little sketch to give you some idea of the course my work is taking, because today I've gone back to it. This time, it's my bedroom, done very simply. Color alone must do the job here, and through its simplicity, give a grander style to things, be suggestive of repose or sleep. In the end, viewing the painting must rest the mind, or rather, the imagination. The walls are pale violet. The floor has red tiles. The wood of the bed and chairs is the yellow of fresh butter. The sheet and pillows are a very light lime green. The bedspread is scarlet, the window green, the dressing table orange, the basin blue, and the doors lilac. And that's everything and nothing in this shuttered bedroom. The size of the furnishings also must express unshakable repose. In addition, there are portraits on the wall, a mirror, a hand towel, and a few clothes. Because there's no white in the painting, the frame will be white. I'll work on it again all day tomorrow, but you'll see that the conception is simple. Shade and shadows are eliminated. It's colored with flat, fresh colors, like the crepons. I'm keeping this letter brief because I'm going to get a very early start tomorrow in order to catch the morning light so that I can finish my canvas. My best wishes, always, Vincent.
Vincent van Gogh settled at Arles in February 1888. Initially, he resided in a hotel. Beginning on May 1st, he rented a little house at 2 Place Lamartine for 15 francs a month from Monsieur and Madame Ginoux. The ground floor was to serve as his studio. He bought 2 chairs, a table, and a coffee service. This service would be made famous by his still life of the coffee pot. However, Vincent typically worked outdoors. On a canal near Arles, he painted the bridge of Langlois several times. When he didn't have a canvas, he sketched using cut reeds. He wrote letters to his brother Theo, a broker of paintings in Paris, who aided him financially. He also corresponded with Paul Gauguin, then at Pont-Aven. Gauguin was ill and debt-ridden. To help him, Vincent proposed that Gauguin join him at Arles. For some time, Vincent had dreamed of establishing an artists' colony similar to those of the Japanese or to the collectives of the ancient Dutch. He imagined that other painters would participate in this group of so-called Impressionists of the South and that Gauguin would be their leader. At the beginning of September, Theo sent Vincent 300 francs, part of an inheritance left by an uncle who had died at the end of July. Vincent bought 2 beds, a dozen chairs, some tables, and a mirror he would use to paint his self-portrait. From Pont-Aven, Gauguin sent Vincent a self-portrait titled Les Misérables. In exchange, Vincent sent his self-portrait with a dedication. He continued to furnish the house, which he had entirely repainted and in which he slept for the first time on Sunday, September 16th. He first made a drawing of his yellow house, then a watercolor, and finally, a canvas.
I really want to make an artist's residence out of it, but not affected, nothing of affectation. Rather, from the chair to the table, everything should have character.
For a year, the Yellow House was his home and studio. Most of his subjects were chosen from the immediate neighborhood, view of the Rhone, cafe terrace at night, and the Trancantaille Bridge. The viaduct is one shown in the Yellow House, but seen from an inverted axis. In the background are the Place Lamartine and its gardens, which he showed again in The Poetic Garden. During the same period, Vincent painted the Night Café at the railway station, which also was owned by Monsieur Ginoux and located near the Yellow House.
I've tried to use red and green to express terrible human passions. The room is blood red and deep yellow, a green billiard table in the center, and 4 lemon yellow lamps give off an orange and green radiance. Everywhere there is a struggle between extreme reds and greens, in the embodiments of the sleeping men, in the empty, sad room of violet and blue.
Vincent lived quite alone, but managed to make a few friends. One was a second lieutenant with the Zouaves named Paul-Eugène Millet, to whom Vincent gave drawing lessons. Another was the Belgian painter and poet Eugène Boch, who lived at Fontvieille.
I'd like to paint a portrait of an artist friend who dreams grand dreams, who works as the nightingale sings, because it is his nature. This man will be blonde. In the painting, I'd like to show my appreciation, my affection for him. To begin, I'll paint him as he is, as faithfully as I can. But the painting will not end that way. To finish it, I'll be an arbitrary colorist. I'll exaggerate the blonde of his hair going into orange tones and pale yellow. Behind his head, instead of painting a banal wall of a mean apartment, I'll paint infinity. I'll make a simple background of the richest, intensest blue that I can create, and through this simple combination, the blonde head standing out against this rich blue background, I'll produce a mysterious effect, almost that of a star in a deep blue sky.
In mid-October, Vincent painted his own bedroom. He announced the project to Theo by sending him a sketch. He also sent a sketch to Gauguin.
It has pleased me enormously to create this uncomplicated interior, simplicity à la Seurat.
In translating the first drawing sent to Theo into a painting, Vincent made some modifications. On the right wall, 2 new frames appear, probably Japanese prints. Above them are portraits of his friends, Eugène Boch and the Zouave Millet. Vincent also decorated the bedroom he had sent his brother and Gauguin.
There will be a lodging for someone, the prettiest room upstairs, which, as much as possible, I'll try to make into a bedroom for a truly artistic woman.
Gauguin finally arrived on the 23rd of October. The 2 painters lived and worked together rather well. Gauguin completed the furnishings of the Yellow House. Madame Ginoux posed for Vincent and also for Gauguin, who painted her in a café, the all-night café already painted by Van Gogh. That season, Vincent also painted a pair of contrasting pendants.
A yellow chair of wood and straw on red tiles against a wall, an impression of day. Then Gauguin's armchair in red and green, an impression of night. A red and green wall and floor, 2 books and a candle on the seat, painted on sailcloth with thick paste.
In December, Gauguin painted another self-portrait and a portrait of Van Gogh in the act of painting sunflowers. However, tension was mounting between the two artists.
Gauguin and I talk a lot about Delacroix, Rembrandt, and others. Our discussions are like a surge of electricity. Sometimes we leave them with our heads exhausted, like an electric battery after a discharge.
On the evening of December 23rd, Van Gogh and Gauguin had a violent dispute. That night, in a frenzy, Vincent cut off a piece of his earlobe with a razor and tried to give it to a prostitute. Then he returned home and fell into unconsciousness. The following day, he was hospitalized at the Hotel Dieu in Arles. He left the hospital on January 7th and returned to work, but at the beginning of February, he suffered another attack and was hospitalized again. A petition brought by his neighbors against Vincent resulted in the Yellow House being closed by the police.
Monsieur Rey said that instead of eating enough and regularly, I sustained myself with coffee and alcohol. I admit all that, but the truth is that to have attained the high yellow note that I attained that summer, I had to cheat a little.
Toward mid-April, Vincent returned to box up all his canvases and send them to his brother. Among them was the bedroom.
It's one of the best ones, and I think that when you look at it, you'll see more clearly what my studio would have produced. This study, like some of the others, was damaged by humidity during my illness.
On May 8th, Vincent left Arles for the Hospice Saint-Paul de Mossol at Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. He would stay there a year while continuing to paint. He wanted to make changes to the bedroom, and he asked Theo to return the canvas to him. It was the version that today is exhibited in Amsterdam. Theo advised him to make a copy rather than attempt a restoration. In September 1889, Vincent made a copy of the painting in an identical format, approximately 72 by 90 centimeters. The portraits on the right wall no longer are those of Boch and Millet. The first, which appears to be a self-portrait, doesn't correspond to a known painting of the artist. The second one is a portrait of an unidentified blonde woman. That's the version now exhibited in Chicago. Satisfied with his copy, Vincent made another one for his mother and sister, only smaller, 56 by 74 centimeters. This time, the portrait on the right is that of a dark-haired woman. On the left, the self-portrait corresponds to a picture painted at Arles the end of the preceding year. The landscape hanging at the head of the bed is also different. This is the version now on exhibit in Paris. 3, 2, 1. 3 versions: Amsterdam, Chicago, Paris. 2 doors, 2 chairs, 2 paintings, 2 prints, 2 pillows, only 1 bedroom, Vincent's at Arles. At the end of his stay in Paris and during his year at Arles, Vincent used no fewer than 15 pigments: chrome green, emerald green, lapis lazuli, Prussian blue, cobalt blue, vermilion, red lacquer, red ochre, chrome orange, chrome yellow, cadmium yellow, umber, carbon black, lead white, zinc white. The chrome orange and yellow and the cadmium yellow mixed with white and a few other light colors are the foundation of the gamut of colors associated with his stay at Arles. Like Seurat and Signac, Vincent wanted to base his usage of colors on scientific principles. In the night cafe, he played on the stridence of complementary colors. He would do the same in his self-portrait with a bandaged ear. In the bedroom, he also used pairs of opposite colors: orange-blue, violet-yellow, green-red. In a letter to Theo, Vincent suggested that the painting be framed in white. According to his theory, white would balance the complementary colors and accent their bold effects. In the second and third versions, Vincent introduced a touch of white in the mirror's surface. Through his letters, Vincent indicated that the bedroom walls were, in fact, whitened with lime, and that the floor was paved with red flagstones. Several times he wrote that he exaggerated the colors and changed them arbitrarily. He invented a new chromatism, which several years later the Fauvists would develop to its extreme.
Shade and shadows are eliminated. It's colored with flat, fresh colors, like the crepons.
The crepons referred to are Japanese prints. Vincent collected, exhibited, and copied them. He often included them in his paintings. He sought himself to obtain the effects of light and depth by the frank juxtaposition of planes of bright colors. Vincent designed his content as Monet had done his in certain paintings. Black or dark-colored strokes encircle objects and delineate spaces that appear to be only later filled with color. The chairs, the table, the bed are edged with lines that reinforce the heaviness of the wood. In several of his canvases at Arles, Vincent used a system of discontinuous brushstrokes, perhaps inspired by the little strokes found in his drawings done with cut reeds. In painting, the result is a mixture of impressionist strokes and pointillist strokes. In the bedroom, he sought to avoid this discontinuous swarm. The strokes that fill in the surfaces are connected, very descriptive. They follow the vertical and horizontal boards of the wooden bed. They radiate out along the star-like caning of the straw chairs. They follow the vertical laths of the half-closed shutters. They flee with the lines of the tile floor. These strokes are thick. Their sharp edges catch the light. Thus, the eye of the viewer perceives directions, concentrations, vibrations that recreate the impressions of materials and textures. That's why, despite his arbitrary colors, the bedroom remains realistic. After Arles, Vincent would attempt a brushstroke that was much more sinuous, suitable for rendering the movement of the wind or even the great whirl of the cosmos. And by the end of his stay at Arles, an arabesque stroke had begun to appear in his work.
I exaggerate and sometimes change the motif, but in the end, I don't invent the whole painting. On the contrary, I find it ready-made. I just reveal its nature.
Can Vincent's demand for truth be verified by superimposing his pictures over the original setting? The Yellow House was converted into a cafe. On June 25, 1944, the train station and the iron tracks around it were bombed. The little house was partially destroyed. It could have been restored, but instead, it was razed. Consequently, it's not possible to compare the Yellow House and the bedroom to Van Gogh's pictures. However, both can be reconstructed using the pictures themselves. At La Haye in 1882, Vincent had built an apparatus inspired by the principles of Dürer. In a wooden frame, a network of wires helped the artist reference the lines of a landscape and the sizes of objects. He still had this frame, which he used in the execution of some of his reed drawings and paintings. Vincent had a taste for receding lines. He calculated his frame in such a way that these lines inserted themselves into his composition. In the bedroom, the lines form a network like a spider's web and give the impression of a rapid slope. However, The painting's perspective conforms to classic rules. By extending the lines of the walls, it's possible to arrive at a vanishing point at the bottom of the window. Other alignments also converge on this point. This wasn't the case with the quickly drawn sketches. The same is true with the version at Chicago. When he copied his first painting, Vincent let the lines float a little. But in the little version painted for his mother and sister, he resumed his perspective. However, the three paintings show several strange details. The bottom of the background wall isn't parallel to the lower edge of the painting. The moldings on the two doors are not aligned on the lines of convergence. The dressing table is placed on the oblique. The bed overlaps the opening of the door. Some have seen in this and a few other paintings signs of Vincent's madness. Objects seem to be fleeing, walls moving, everything witnessing an unstable world nearing dislocation. However, Van Gogh wanted to be realistic. Thus, the image is surely that of a real bedroom of which all the elements, even the most bizarre, can be explained. The straw chair is a type that's still popular today. The height of its shelf is a standardized dimension, about 42 centimeters. The chair can serve as a model to analyze the rest of the picture. The width of the room between the two doors is 7 times this model, around 2 meters, 94 centimeters. The bed is about 2.5 times the model, about 1 meter, 5 centimeters. Thus, it's possible to place the bed, the chairs, and the two doors in a first rough draft of the floor plan. For the background wall, the reference points are less obvious. Examination of the head of the bed shows that the right bedpost is quite removed from the angle of the room, whereas the left bedpost is very near the clothes tree on the base of the wall. Similarly, the back feet of the table are the same distance from the wall, so that this table seems placed on an oblique in relation to the bed. How can these contradictions be explained? The main clue is provided by Vincent himself. In the yellow house, he shows the large building on the Avenue de Montmajour, and in front, the little group of annexes built in its extension. 2 twin cottages with the front gable, separated by an enclosed section, no doubt a common stairwell. Now, the horizontals marking the floors of the little house aren't parallel to the horizontals of the larger building, which would have been the case if the facades themselves had been parallel. This peculiarity is not due to the painter's negligence, because it shows up in various photographs taken at different periods. In a city planning dossier that dates from a few years before Vincent's arrival in Arles, there is an exact blueprint. The yellow house had indeed been built when the larger building was extended and its facades aligned along the Avenue de Montmajour and on the Place Lamartine, forming a 180-degree angle. It's this angle that can be seen between the left wall of the bedroom and the background wall. The floor plan can be completed from there. The dressing table is aligned against the wall. The bed extends beyond the door on the right because Vincent could not completely push it to the background without sacrificing a good portion of the bedroom surface. According to the survey plans, each little house was about 7 meters wide and the enclosed stairwell about 3 meters. Based on the facts of the painting, the background wall measured 3 meters, 35 centimeters. The other room was the same width. However, Vincent claimed he gave the nicer room to Gauguin.
Well, today I rented the right wing of this building, which contains 4 rooms, or rather 2 rooms and 2 closets.
Gauguin's bedroom no doubt took up the largest part of the remaining surface and possessed 3 windows. Vincent's bedroom, very small, was located with its 2 doors between the landing and Gauguin's bedroom. The perspective also permits calculation of the angle of vision, which is 90 degrees. The bedroom space is not immediately discernible because Van Gogh covered his tracks. For example, the window is not closed. It's half open. Thus, its position does not offer any information concerning the obliqueness of the wall. The door on the left is not aligned on the perspective. Looking behind the chair in the Chicago and Paris versions, the door is seen to be partly open. Undoubtedly, the door at right also is partly open. Van Gogh eliminated a fundamental element in any synchronization of space: shadow. If he had painted his bedroom as he saw it toward the middle of the day, he would have to have painted powerful backlighting. And there's another curious detail. In the first two paintings, Vincent painted the upper right angle of the room. Now, the alignment of the ceiling is in contradiction with the height of the window visible in the painting. The contradiction could be explained by the presence of a sloped mansard or a beam. By extending the lines of the walls and integrating this beam into them, a coherent volume could be obtained, that of Vincent's little bedroom. Initially, Vincent gave his interior a feeling of repose, of liberty.
In the end, viewing the painting must rest the mind, or rather, the imagination.
In his remarks, in effect, Vincent places the bedroom empty, peaceful, harmonious, lit by daylight, in opposition to the night cafe filled with people, agonizing, striped with bold colors, lit by gaslight. Moreover, the forms and lines are very similar. Later, at Saint-Rémy, he would state that the wheat field against a background of mountains could be the counterpart of his bedroom. The wheat has been flattened by a storm. Here again, disorder and violence are placed in opposition to the bedroom's orderliness. White walls, red tiles, straw chairs, a rustic bed. These choices reflect something of a Protestant influence that marked Vincent's youth. They also were undoubtedly the influence of Millet's peasant subjects. By giving insight into the simple living space of an artist, Vincent also made a political statement. Illustrated newspapers of the day often showed the jumbled studios and living quarters of the great academic painters of the time. The bedroom is an appeal in favor of a rustic style, which since then has achieved universal success. And in the bedroom can be seen a large still life in the Dutch tradition. However, the still life is never a neutral genre with Van Gogh. The coffee pot tells of Vincent's metamorphosis, the moment when he finally acceded to the yellow house. The straw chair is the most obvious of Vincent's self-portraits. In full sunlight against a simple background, it is the counterpart to the evening armchair against a flowered background thought to represent Gauguin. The personal object becomes a metaphor, a sign of destiny. In the first version, Vincent hangs on his walls portraits of his two friends at the time. He still dreams about a community of artists. Then he replaces those portraits with the portraits of a couple, himself and an imaginary woman. Van Gogh would have loved to have found a companion. He thought about completing his painting with a nude woman and a cradle. But either he forgot to do it or he was unable to resolve it. The only rare nude women that Vincent painted in the course of his career were prostitutes. The awakened dream of the painter also had its hellish nightmare. Perhaps at Degas' home in Paris, Vincent had seen a canvas entitled Interior, sometimes subtitled The Rape. The two paintings, removed toward the background by the same sharp perspective, have numerous points in common. However, Degas' bedroom is a place of shadows, madness, crime. On the other hand, in Vincent's bedroom, light bursts forth from everywhere and shadows are banished. The bedroom is the luminous reverse of the interior, a conjuration of light against shadow. The furnishings turn away toward the edges of the picture, hollowing out a hospitable center. The bedroom chosen by Vincent is the smaller room. It enables him to isolate himself, to become focused, to fight against dispersion. Located on a crossroad, The house, yellow like the sun, became for Vincent the center of his universe.
In the morning, on opening the window, the green of the gardens, the rising sun, and the entrance to the